Hello, is Casman50 from the Hardware Diversity Discussion. And yes, it's been a very long time since you've seen my thoughts, which was the sort of replacement to the Hardware Diversity Discussion podcast that was around for a number of months. But anyway, this is the long-awaited episode on AMD APUs. I feel it's quite a timely release, as the Raven Ridge AM4 socket APUs have now been launched, and lots of reviews floating around about that, and we'll cover that specific region of the product space later on. So to start things off, we will go back all the way to 2011, August of 2011, with the Llano based APUs. So basically, before we get started, APUs are a CPU and GPU on die. Now, that's nothing new. Intel have been doing it since the Core i series with their integrated graphics, and historically and still up to this day, it's not the best. It doesn't use a lot of really high-spec graphic systems, and they don't put a lot of room on the die for that to happen. So we have a die shot of what the Raven Ridge looks like, and as you can see, it takes up at least half of what of the die space that the CPUs take up, because they're so small, the new Zen cores. But historically, has grown in size and in consequence become faster. But APUs have been different. Yes, they've sort of been really quite, the last few years have been quite good. Certainly at the time, obviously Bulldozer was holding things back, but on the whole, been pretty impressive stuff. So yeah, but back in 2011, I found this out just now. The Llano-based cores were actually using KTN dies, which, as you do not know, are based on what they use in the Phenom 2 and Phenom 2 CPUs, which was very old 2006 and 2007 architecture, and I suppose they still hadn't released Bulldozer by that stage. So they had the integrated 5000 series graphics onto that, and that took DDR3 memory. Didn't have a universal video encoder, so you couldn't encode video through your GPU at that time, as 5000 series didn't support that natively. Supported PowerPlay, which was sort of a low performance mode and a high performance mode on the GPUs. Actually, sort of was similar to switchable graphics back in the day, and obviously didn't support true audio or FreeSync. It did, however, support some type of HSA. I thought that came out quite a bit later on, but that was the memory, the CPU had direct access to the memory, and so did the CPU. They sort of shared the same address space, so it can be very much sort of switched over quite quickly. That was one of the big benefits of what their design was. Is sure, they used RAM, but it treated it all as one block instead of having dedicated RAM, and that's actually it was very efficient, and still is quite efficient to this day. So we moved on to the first actual proper release, which was sort of Trinity in Richland, which was the first sort of FM2 based. Obviously, yeah, they did have different sockets back then. That was a bit of a difference in terms of the architecture, as they had different sockets compared to the AM2 and FX lineup, which was coming in 2012, 2013. But anyway, so this is Richland and Trinity, which were FM2 based, and they really bumped up the power. They had high-speed DDR3 memory support. They had 6000 series GPU, and then eventually the first GCN architecture 7000 series, and frankly that really boosted things up. They had the universal encoder, they had true audio and FreeSync support. No, they didn't actually, sorry, hang on a second. No, that's obviously true, and FreeSync was later on, but they had power tune, and lots and lots of different things there. Obviously, at the same time as well, the Kabini and Newlands Ultra Mobile, which is like 15-25 watt CPU, similar to what the new ones are out on the very slim and light laptops with integrated Vega cores. But so they were out at the same time as well, and they had even more updated memory, architecture, and even graphics, which was the first ones to release on the second generation GCN, which was obviously sort of had the R9 290 class and Fury X class graphics, which was sort of, but obviously much more scaled down for 15 to 35 watts, I think they were at the time. And so after that, quarter 2014, they had Kaveri, which is FM2 Plus, which was actually technically the first, well, after Godveri, which was the updated version of Kaveri, was actually the last ones to be released on the FM2 Plus platform. So there's been quite a hiatus of about 2 or 3 years where they haven't actually released an APU. So that's why this one was such long awaited. And obviously, had GCN 3rd generation on there as well, and second generation, I should say, is still the same GPU but much more upgraded. They had Mantle, FreeSync and PowerTune and True Audio. Really, really impressive stuff, and if you overclocked those things, they were really quite impressive. They even had a Crosshair motherboard, the Crosshair 5, based on the FM2 Plus chipset. So I think that was quite impressive to have ASUS decide, we're going to make the ultimate boards. One of the first things people didn't know actually about the later generation FM2 Plus, it was the first AMD platform to support PCI Express Generation 3, which I thought was quite interesting. Certainly at the time, it's like, why do you need a high bandwidth GPU for a CPU that's sort of only 4 cores? It didn't actually have the 8 threads. It was actually it was a very condensed 4-core CPU, so it didn't have the extra compute units that they had on the FX line of CPUs, even though they're based on the same architecture. So that was quite interesting. They really, really interesting stuff to see what they put out at the time, and and obviously now with the new AMD APUs coming out with Vega, really, really impressive stuff. I mean, most of the time, they sort of obviously optimized games like Battlefield at the time, and now a lot of the like Doom and sort of things like that. You can definitely expect 1080p medium and high settings at 60 FPS, and they are actually, on the whole, on par, if not slightly more powerful than what the console generation was at the time. So really, I put a lot of effort in putting a single CPU, single die, having all this architecture, and I'd be interested to see what Navi comes up with its multi-chip modules, which will be coming out in the future as well, where they'll hopefully have different dies doing different things rather than having a condensed sort of memory controller, the GPU, and the various components of what they are made up of in one package. So it will definitely be of interest to see where APUs go in the future, because Intel's got all this trickery about EDRAM and having really good CPUs, but the integrated graphics are vastly outclassed, and really there's lots of benchmarks out there. Go find them for yourself about how they compare, and really you can definitely get away, especially now in 2018 with how high priced GPUs are. You can get away with having an integrated graphics for now, and then putting in a discrete GPU later on down the track. And they're actually higher spec than the current CPU line. Yes, they are slightly more overpriced because of the GPUs that are in them, but you can really get away with that, and I would definitely recommend having that for 2018. And wait a year to build a system if you can't afford what's going on at the moment now as well. But anyway, that really about wraps me up. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, favourite, subscribe. If you want more in-depth content, please let me know. I might make a revised video. Thank you very much. Bye for now.